Live Studio B sessions are brought to you by Sierra Nevada Brewing Company, and I'm in Studio B with this fine couple here, Dana and Susan Robinson, for some live music.
Hey, Martin.
Good morning.
Here's a little love song to our village in northern Vermont. This is called The Town That Music Saved.
That is The Town That Music Saved from Dana and Susan Robinson, title track to a new collection of Vermont-inspired songs.
Indeed.
And the one that starts it off, and it sounds like a true story.
It's observations. It's kind of songwriting 101. You just take a look at what's around you, the title for that was actually inspired first off by our neighboring town of Hardwick, Vermont, which was known as the town that food saved because of all the great agricultural endeavors and kind of a revolution in the food economy there. And Cabot, much smaller a place, has an incredible abundance of musicians and venues. And for a village of 1,400 people, it's got an amazing amount of venues and musicians.
That's great.
So it was the town that music saved.
Yeah, all right. Now, you're from Cabot. We know a little bit about Cabot. I'm thinking that Cabot is the town that cheese saved.
Well, go ahead, tell them.
Yeah, we like to say, come for the cheese, stay for the culture. I made that up. Thank you very much.
Just now, or I don't know. That's a good little pun there too.
Yeah, I mean, seriously sharp.
Yeah.
Cabot
Indeed.
cheddar.
And they have like
best.
a dozen kinds of different kinds of sharp cheddar. It's funny.
And
I still can't tell the difference 5 years later. But anyway.
And going back to Hardwick, where the food is, you have the Jasper Hill Cheese Caves, where the good stuff is.
Okay.
So, yeah.
They discovered caves and they were made of cheese, or did they
discovered
put the cheese in the
Full
caves?
of cheese.
It was full of cheese.
With the crystallized salt nuggets.
Yeah. Try the stalactites. Dana and Susan Robinson here on WNCW. Down from Vermont. Actually, you were in New Orleans, I think, a few days ago.
We've been driving much too much in the rain. We had a great...
It was worth it.
Yeah, we had a great few days in New Orleans.
Okay, cool. Did you do the Folk Alliance as well earlier? That was last month.
We stay away from those things.
Oh, I would think y'all would fit right in there. It's a sweet blend of folk and old time.
I know, we would, but we don't.
But no.
we were just having a wee vacation.
We needed a vacation, yeah.
Oh, well, great. And now you're back in the area where you used to live. You lived in Marshall for a while.
We used to live in Marshall.
In Asheville.
For about, 15 years or so.
15, yeah.
And we miss it. We miss it here.
It all feels wonderfully familiar.
Of course.
Yeah,
we love
like
coming back.
coming home.
Yeah. And you're performing in your old hometown this evening, West Asheville anyway, at Isis Restaurant Music Hall.
Yeah.
7 o'clock show.
Yeah.
That's right.
Be there. Be square.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be square or not.
Yeah, well, square's good.
Sure. And then maybe you're heading back up to home. And,
what are we doing?
We're going to
out,
Durham.
Yeah, Durham. We got a show in Durham, North Carolina. And then up to Maryland for a concert, and then we're driving home.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it's a little tour.
Into the snow.
For those that don't know, there's neat stuff to get to know about these two crazy characters. But they met at a house concert in Santa Clara back in 02 or so. How sweet.
Years ago.
How sweet. You were a grant writer for an environmental nonprofit or two in the Santa Cruz area.
Yeah, that's right.
That sounds like a bunch of stories there.
Still is.
Still am.
And by then, Dana, you'd been traveling on the road a lot for a bunch of years.
Yeah,
were you performing at the house concert, or were you?
It was
Dana
my
was
house concert.
Yeah, and I just kind of slipped in at the last minute, and the rest is history.
There she was.
Oh, cool. And then you started performing with them at house concerts and venues.
Well, you know what it was? It's Sue. We decided that we wanted to be together, and Sue was in a fortunate place of being able to take a sabbatical. And so it was she spent her sabbatical touring.
Basically on the road with Dana.
Yeah.
And little by little, we started playing songs and tunes together. And before I knew it, Dana was pulling me up to the stage, and before we were even married, he started introducing us as Dana and Susan Robinson. So I thought, okay.
It was a little
the writing is
presumptuous.
on the wall.
Well, yeah. Yikes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Little romantics on Valentine's Day Eve are taking notes at home.
yeah.
So that's how you do it.
This was romantic.
If there's a concert to go to for Valentine's Day, you could do it a day early
There you go.
tonight.
All right. Start early. All right. At ISIS. Just a suggestion from these two. Dana and Susan Robinson. Susan has replaced her guitar with a banjo. And Dana's still got his guitar, and it's tuned and it's ready.
Yes. So actually, here's a little. Speaking of love, here's a little love song to Asheville. This is called the Asheville Blues.
Those Asheville Blues from Dana and Susan Robinson here on WNCW. Now, their latest album focuses on Vermont-inspired songs. So that one's from the one of the earlier ones. I forget which
That
album.
was actually that was Angel Share from 2016, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, not that long ago.
Not too long ago. Those old Asheville Blues. And you all were in Asheville last night. I saw some videos you posted up of Jack of the Wood. Jack of the Wood has a great old-time scene every Wednesday night, folks. And
It was a Wednesday night, and how can you not take advantage of what to do in Asheville on a Wednesday night?
Yep.
You have to go down to the Jack of the Wood.
I used to see you there a few times back in the old days to just spectate or maybe take part. And Rodney Sutton was doing some dancing.
He
John
was.
Herman and company were holding court.
It was great. It was like all our old friends. They were they all showed up, and it was just it was like Gordy and Phil and Meredith and John and Robbie and Thorne, and I mean it was just really fun seeing the old crew.
Yeah,
and they sounded good too. They had that old Southern deep groove. It sounds so good.
Some folks, will know this, that the more you hear any style of music, of course, the more you get to know the nuances and the differences. And old time music, a lot of the same tunes that are played regardless of the region, but they can be played differently. And in that town the music saved about Cabot, Vermont, where you live, you mentioned going to the old time jam. So can you put into words how the difference of the old time scenes of Vermont versus here in the Southern Appalachians?
Well, I'm always astounded on all it takes is an individual or two to get a scene started. And you get these fiddlers that like tour through on concerts, and it fires the imagination of some local young fiddlers, and then they start playing that style, and then they want to start a session, and they want to start giving classes. And so when we moved back to Vermont, we sort of stepped into the middle of a scene that had been developing for about 10 years. And then all we had to do is just, for an example, in Cabot, there's this little pub that just opened up, a pub made out of a hardware store.
I thought you were going to say a pub made out of cheese.
No, a pub. No,
it was a hardware store called Harry's Hardware.
Nice.
And a few years ago, a couple moved into town, and they decided what this hardware store needed was a couple of beer taps.
Yeah.
and so they had a real old-fashioned, funky hardware store with some beer taps, and they cleared a little space by the window. And my next thought was, well, all this is missing now is an old-time session.
Heck yeah.
And so it was September of 2017. Sue and I just started showing up every Sunday afternoon.
And sometimes it was just the two of us.
And sometimes it was, and then
and we'd play for 2 hours.
and then another local banjo player would show up, and then there was another guitar player, and then word started getting around.
Yeah.
And now every week there's between 10 to 16 people that show up, and it's a wonderful.
It's fabulous.
It's a wonderful
and
sound.
What's also wonderful about it is that we've got a bunch of kids that are just incredible musicians, and they show up as well. So we've got
it's a multi-generational.
Multi-generational.
That's great.
Yeah, and very inclusive. So it works.
Cool.
It's a little community up there.
It's a community.
And you spread it far and wide too. You mentioned in the Asheville Blues about going to Caledonia, as in Scotland, I assume, because you play in Scotland a good bit. And and bring that old time music over there a little bit.
Well, that version of I love listening to Norman Blake, and Norman Blake sings the Nashville Blues, and so it was while we were living here in Marshall and Asheville that I conjured up the Asheville Blues, and that Caledonia reference is actually to the Caledonia County in northern Vermont, because it's kind of like the Scotland of the United States.
Is it? All right.
In many ways.
That was just a kind of a inside reference. I sing that with fondness of both places.
Oh, good. Cool. Dana and Susan Robinson here on WNCW, back in our area, and maybe ready for another song. Now Dana's got the banjo.
Dana has the banjo. And
watch out.
Watch out,
want to
everybody.
get caught, holding the banjo.
And I'm going to sing a song that was written by Ola Belle Reed. We just absolutely adore Ola Belle. She, as you probably all know, she was born and raised in Ashe County, North Carolina, and this is my favorite song of hers. It's called "Undone in Sorrow." I saw a YouTube of her playing this, a video clip. Actually, it wasn't YouTube at that time, but a video clip of her playing. And she says, this song, the theme of the song, it's older than the hills. It's a sad, sad song. And when I get done with it, it'll be pitiful. So we're aiming for pitiful.
All right,
here.
go for pitiful. It's an old Ola Belle Reed tune here on WCW from Dana and Susan Robinson. Susan singing that one. Susan, that was pitiful. But that's what you wanted.
Martin, that's what I was reaching for.
Oh yeah, I hope so. Yeah, no. Seriously, that was great. Nice to hear Ola Belle Reed tune, and one other than I've Endured. That's the first one that comes to mind, which is great.
Yeah.
I also love that
It's
song.
a good reason why everyone
also
covers
love
that one of hers. And yeah, I like looking at some of your influences. It's just terrific. Nice diversity. I hear a lot of them in the music you all play. Tim O'Brien for sure, Gillian Welch, the New York Fiddler, Bruce Molsky, who's been here. I call him a New York Fiddler. That's almost a joke because he's been here in the Carolina mountains for decades now.
Okay.
But then you throw in like what, Ali Farka Touré. It's like, well,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, okay, yeah, I get it.
Here's another one for you. Have you ever listened to Chris Wood from England?
Not Oliver's brother, another one.
No.
I don't know Chris Wood.
Okay. Pals around with the likes of Martin Carthy and that sort of thing. He's wonderful. Influence.
Another influence.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Any Vermont musicians that we might not know of or do know of?
Well, Pete Sutherland is our just beloved elder of all things trad, and I mean, and he's an amazing songwriter. But Pete Sutherland is, everybody bows to Pete up there. He's just a massive presence in the Vermont folk and acoustic scene, and he tours down this way with his trio known as Pete's Posse. So folks out there might see Pete's Posse come down south once or twice a year.
All right.
So yeah, there you go.
Cool. And
You ever heard of Bo Thayer?
heard of Bo Thayer? We played him a little bit.
Yeah. I thought
He's a
his
Vermonter,
sound,
isn't he?
His sound would fit perfectly in this part of the world.
Yeah, we played. I haven't heard from him in a little while. We'll have to get back to him. Maybe we'll get to some Vermont musicians after.
And of course, Anais Mitchell.
Oh yes, she's part of a new little group, Bonnie Light Horsemen.
Yeah, great music, great sound.
Yeah. And big success with Hades Town.
Oh yeah.
The
we went to see it this summer.
boy,
It blew our minds. Wonderful. Yeah.
Cool.
Great songwriting.
great. And let's see. I know you built your cabin, Dana, a while ago. You used to live in from scratch or whatever, and now you're in an old converted church or something?
It's a
That's where you all live?
schoolhouse.
It's a schoolhouse.
Yeah, it's an 1880s schoolhouse. It was full of children for 68 years, I guess, from 1880 to 1948, and it's a beautiful old building. We feel really lucky to have found it, to live there. And it's a perfect spot for house concerts too.
Ah, very good.
Which we do.
Which we do.
Cool. Well, you've got a venue concert tonight, a restaurant music hall concert. It's at ISIS 7 tonight in Asheville. And let's hear one more tune before you get in the car. And
I also want an opportunity just to mention our website.
What is it?
It's robinsongs.com. It's ROBINSONGS.com.
There
Or
you
can
go.
Probably just Google Dana and Susan Robinson and you'll find us.
Okay, very good.
And all that Facebook, Instagram-y stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So here's our last song here. This is actually I won't explain this. This is just called Shine. This is just how we keep
This is how we keep happy from
all
the
things
bad news.
all things news and political.
Yeah, that's right.
An uplifting song called Shine from Dana and Susan Robinson. One of the tunes on their new one, The Town That Music Saved, along with songs about billboards and farmers and country stores.
There you go.
And cheese caves? No?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, that's
Volume
coming
2.
up next. Yeah, about those cheese caves. I mean, the stalactites,
No, just mold.
they form in the summertime, right? As
Lots
it
of good
melts?
mold
Okay,
everywhere.
cool. Oh, great. Thanks for coming on in here and back to Studio B.
Thank you, Martin.
Good
Thanks
to
for
see
having
you.
us.
They're playing at ISIS tonight. Live Studio B sessions are brought to you by Sierra Nevada Brewing Company.